Why is it important to understand a counselee's presenting story when they come to you? That's the question we're going to answer in this brief video. Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Todd, and I've been thinking about the effect one story has on current behaviors. I'm reading a book by Carl Trueman. I finally got around to it, talking about the modern self. And he makes a pretty poignant argument about how we interpret the cause of events. Trueman always presents this to his history students at the beginning of every term. He'll say something like this: let me ask it this way. He would say, did gravity cause the Twin Towers to fall on 9/11? Well, the answer is yes, but is that the complete answer? And of course we know it's not. And Trueman makes the argument that there are almost always in every cultural phenomenon a historical matrix of contributing people, places, factors, situations, occurrences, discoveries, so on and so forth, that come together at a certain point in time to lead us in the direction we end up going. So when we look at that and we apply it to counseling, we'll ask this question. Let's pretend there's a man sitting there with you in counseling and he has committed adultery. And we could ask, did sin cause his adultery? Well, just like gravity caused the towers to fall, sin did cause his adultery. However, from what historical matrix did that particular sin manifest itself? In other words, what contributing factors occurred in this man's life to where indwelling sin became outward behaviors? And I think that's really important, because it's real easy to look at a person and say, well, you're a sinner, just stop it. But that's like performing surgery with a chainsaw instead of a scalpel. It's really important to understand the person's story or the historical matrix that created an environment in which adultery became a viable option. You may say, well, that's going to lead to this person not taking responsibility, blaming it on their environment and all this kind of stuff. And I guess that could be true if you don't pay attention to what you're talking about or what you're dealing with there. But I would argue that it's much more effective to acknowledge that it's sin that needs to be dealt with and repented of, and forgiveness sought and reconciliation hopefully worked toward. However, if I don't understand the particulars of his story and that historical matrix that Trueman mentions, then I am not dealing with the factors that may influence future adulterous behaviors. A view of himself, for instance, maybe he's entitled. Well, that came from somewhere other than just a sinful heart. And so it would help me head some things off at the pass. It would also help me identify areas in which the individual was not thinking biblically. Maybe he had a false sense of himself, a false sense of God, a false sense of his responsibility to others, things like that, that cannot be easily ascertained if I simply stop and say, oh, you're sinning, stop it. Now, good biblical counselors would not do that, but just because you're a counselor doesn't mean you're a good one. And so part of my job on these videos is to help you be a better counselor. And so I would think it would help us to understand the particulars of the story. In other words, the historical matrix from which the context from which the story plays itself out would be helpful, because it would help us identify certain potential dangers or reasons as to why the person may have done what they did. Also could prevent future behaviors, because if you know there's a certain tendency going on there, you can do something about it. Also provide you with some things that you can clean up as far as the unbiblical thinking. So it really provides a lot of small areas to start working on, whereas saying sin is more of a global general thing. And of course, counseling deals in the particulars. And so a little bit of Bible and a little bit of life is what Dave Powelson used to always tell us in seminary. And so we want to make sure that we're looking carefully. The other thing it does, it forces us, by taking an interest in the person's story, understanding that historical matrix that led up to the behaviors, we're actually showing them dignity and respect in accordance with their status as image bearers. And so we are not belittling them. We're not working out our own unresolved issues, for instance, related to the abhorrence that we feel toward the behavior maybe that's going on, and we're treating them with dignity and respect, and then that will allow us to build a relationship to which we can say hard things that need to be said in the future as we work with them and get to know their story. I guess at the end of the day, Truman in that part of the book really helped me see that that person sitting in front of you is the combination of a sinful heart working itself out through a variety of contextual factors that contributed to that particular problem. And I need to love them enough to take my time, weed through that with them, help them make sense of their story. Because it's only once we make sense of our stories as they used to be, can we truly appreciate the story of what happened to us when Jesus came and saved us. I think of the Apostle Paul, who talks about how he was the chief of sinners, but God in His grace showed him a more excellent way, if you will. And now he counts everything as lost that he may gain Christ, and so on and so forth. So the idea here is sin is the general problem most people bring to you in counseling. But in its generalities, there are a lot of particulars. And those particulars help give us footing or a beachhead through which we can begin the work to help promote sanctification in the lives of those who come to us for help. Well, I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. If you like the work that I've been doing on this channel, please don't forget to hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss future videos. Also, if you, like I said, if you have anything that you'd like for me to talk about as far as counseling or Christianity, please leave it in the comments there as well, and I'd be happy to entertain those. God bless. We'll talk again soon.